Good morning, and we have some breaking news. The jobs report is out, and although it is not showing yet the crash that the stock market is reflecting because the unemployment claims have not fully been filed, in part because it's really difficult to do that now. But the jobs report is showing fewer jobs added than anticipated. I'm going to share that screen with you right now from the New York Times. Here we have it. U.S. employers added 150,000 jobs in February. They're saying this could be the calm before the storm, or it may be business as usual. This says this is an extended streak of job growth to 50 months. This started under Joe Biden. This is the first jobs report under the Trump administration, showing a full month. The unemployment rate rose to 4.1% from 4%, ticking up slightly. Now, the jobs report was based on surveys conducted in the second week of February. So many economists say the administration's mass firings, buyouts, and hiring freezes may not have surfaced yet. Okay, now, friends, we have also other breaking news, which is last night, Elon Musk launched his Starship rocket via his SpaceX company. And like so many other things that Elon Musk does, this crashed and burned. This is the second time this year that he has had a problem with his rockets blowing up in the atmosphere and crashing. This happened, I believe, in January of this year. And last time, the debris landed in Turks and Caicos. So this time, the debris landed. So yeah, last time it was the end of January of this year. This time it also landed in the Caribbean. And we have some scenes. And what's disturbing about this is that they don't know when they lose contact with the spaceship where it's going and where it's going to land. And when you look at what happened, it wasn't just landing in the ocean. It came very close to a commercial airliner. And as a result of the rocket blowing up, the Federal Aviation Administration had to cancel flights out of major airports to avoid this calamity. So I think you may have already seen it, but I'd like to show it to you because it's one of these things that is so clearly a metaphor for I could call him coked up, but I would call him the ketamine-addled kleptocrat who has no actual legal authority to be doing what he is doing. He is the unelected bureaucrat, billionaire, 500 billionaire, or maybe less now, given his Tesla stock. We have an unelected kleptocratic billionaire cutting payments that are legally owed according to courts and something the Supreme Court has affirmed. And he is not only blowing up our economy, along with Donald Trump and the Republican Party, because they are letting this happen. So Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and the entire elected Republican Party is blowing up our economy. And we will talk more about that and what can be done about it, because it looks like what goes up comes down and goes up again. Donald Trump keeps changing his tune because he doesn't know what he's doing. And he doesn't like numbers that go down because that's very simplistic for him. So let's watch this blow up and think about what all the levers this man's hand is on. He is pulling the levers of our economy. And again, it's Elon Musk, it's Donald Trump, and it's the Republican Party. Let's take a look.
Wow, that is quite. Hey guys, get back to the cockpit.
That is just one example. I think that was shot from an airplane. We've gotten people who are taking these from a boat out on the water. Not a great situation and not at all surprising given that Elon Musk blew up Twitter. He has twice at least blown up a ship, one of these giant spaceships, through his SpaceX company. And as you probably have seen, the stock of Tesla is tanking in large part because it is a toxic brand, not just because the Teslas sometimes blow up, but because it's a toxic brand and there are worldwide protests, maybe even one in a neighborhood near you. Now, let's talk about the economy. The good news is, and I've got some good news here, Donald Trump indeed has backed off on a whole bunch of the tariffs or the product set upon which he was imposing tariffs on goods from Mexico and from Canada. And I am not a trade expert, so when I hear things like anything that is any goods that we would bring into the country from Canada and Mexico that were part of some trade agreement that Donald Trump signed when he first joined office, do not have tariffs anymore. So whatever that basket is, tariffs are lifted until April 2nd. Now, on the one hand, that sounds good. And it's good in large part because it has allowed certain industries, you can see their stocks booming back a little bit. But there are all kinds of things that I'm reading about for which the tariffs go on pretty soon, things like aluminum. So, I am not a trade expert, so it's really hard to say when, what falls into that protected basket until April 2nd and what falls out of it. But where we are, bottom line, is a trade war continues because Justin Trudeau in Canada can't really trust Donald Trump, and neither do the stores that stock things that come in that are imports from the United States. So you still see whole shelves at stores and liquor stores. I don't know how their alcohol is regulated, but you see empty shelves where there used to be like Kentucky bourbon and so on because they just don't want to sell it. They just don't want to sell it to their customers. Remember, they are reciprocating with tariffs, so they could just jack up the prices, right? They could say, okay, when these imports come in, which they're already doing, when certain imports from the US come in, it's going to have, let's say, the 25% tariff. Well, in the meantime, the goods that are already on the shelves, a lot of them are being pulled off. American farmers are freaking out because of the trade wars, because they have been selling their agricultural products in countries that are retaliating against us. And I want to share with you what real people, and I'm going to give you an example of a guy running an auto dealership, what he is saying about these tariffs. So let's go ahead.
Our plant overnight in the United States. So I think building in the United States is great. I think enhancing the participation from the other countries on the other things, but this is pretty radical.
I hear you. There you go, Maria, where the rubber meets the road here.
All right, great. Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, thank you. Thank you so much. Jeff Flock at the Dodge Ram plant. Not plant. It's not a plant, Chris. They're selling cars. Thank you.
Called a dealership.
But you know what? Let me ask you this, okay?
Yes.
How many Dodge Rams do you see driving around Europe? Okay. How many Dodge?
Okay, is she drinking on the job or is she just unable to speak? I don't know. I don't want to accuse her of that. I'm astonished. Not that she was searching for the words when you're on live TV. Maybe you're searching for the word dealership instead of factory or plant. But you have someone in Pennsylvania talking about how his business is struggling, and she just, waves it away. Why aren't they driving Dodges in Europe? And I'm like, okay, that's a question. Also, a friend of ours right here, one of our Prism mates, that's PRISM, more on that in a moment, Philip, who is from Canada, points out that alcohol sales are decided at the provincial level. So in different provinces, They will have different rules about what they, I guess, can have on the shelves, but I'm thinking stores also make those decisions. No store has to sell something it does not want to, subject to a breach of contract lawsuit from a distributor, I would think. Okay, so that is someone being impacted by the trade wars. Now, we also, if you hear people who have real concerns, and that was obviously the big auto executives, because they did sit down with Donald Trump, as we know, because of his joint address to Congress, that they had sat down with him that Tuesday, and lo and behold, the next day, the tariffs that would affect the auto industry, right, because of the materials we would import, and that would increase the cost of cars, those were somehow dropped. But as you see, the stock market keeps going up and down, and there's no real certainty as to whether these will stick. And what you end up hearing is this complete malarkey from either members of Congress or parts of the Trump administration who are just blowing it off, right? And so I need to now, before I show you those clips, bring out our whiteboard. Remember our whiteboard? I have not erased it. This is exactly the same writing. It's a little blurry, but it's exactly what I had before. And what Donald Trump promised when he was running, his favorite word was grocery, and that grocery prices would go down immediately. Hasn't happened. Inflation is on the rise, and one of the staples that he was talking about all the time, eggs. Eggs are through the roof. I don't like that image of eggs being through the roof. Egg prices are extremely high. And he can blame it all he wants on, bird flu. But they're not doing anything meaningful to stop it. In fact, RFK Jr. said, let's just let it burn through the system and just let all the chickens die. And then the ones that have immunity, let's set those aside and then see if we can breed those. Okay. There are factory farms in the United States. And even if you buy your eggs locally somewhere, you should be aware of this, but there are factory farms that have millions of hens laying eggs. I don't think the owners of those businesses want to watch all those hens die, because I don't know, the answer to that other than what it was a member of Congress the other day, I believe, or the administration, who said, well, people should just go out and get chickens for their backyards and they can, eggs will be affordable. Well, this moron isn't paying attention to the fact that if you get chickens for your backyard that are infected with bird flu, you're going to spread it to your whole family. They are not thinking. Okay, so he said groceries would come down. The prices haven't. The next thing he said is he was going to get rid of illegal immigrants. But only, by the way, only the ones who were committing vicious crimes. Well, that's not what's happening. They're going after people, they're scapegoating people, and they are putting people's lives in jeopardy. Now, also, he promised to cut taxes on billionaires and corporations. Well, he's working really hard to do that, but he hasn't been able to figure out how to do it because of these rules still around, the rules that restrain how much he can cut if he, in terms of taxes, if he has all these other expenses. And I'm talking about rules because in theory we could print money, etc. I'm talking about rules and legislation about how things have to pass. If you wanted to pass a tax cut bill or extend the existing tax cuts, he would have to go through this Congressional Budget Office process and this scoring, and it's all complicated. But the bottom line is the reason why the Republicans and Donald Trump brought in Elon Musk is so they can get on paper, or actually by cutting off the spigot of funds that are legally owed, enough money that they cut. And that's going to come out of either, we know this, it's got to come out of Medicare or Medicaid. There's no other way around it, right? They're cutting. And they're even cutting the IRS that collects taxes. But on paper, they're trying to show that they can justify these tax cuts for billionaires and corporations. That's why everything is happening this way. Now he says, I'm going to also cut personal taxes for ordinary people. If you actually believe that, I have a bridge to sell you, because any individual tax cuts are already being shown would be counterbalanced by the taxes we're going to pay because of the trade war that will be passed along to us for the price of goods. Okay, next thing, he said he's going after his enemies. So he's still doing that. Oh, it's going to end the wars. So far, there are still wars raging in Israel and Gaza, and there's still a war that Russia has waged against Ukraine. And also 100% of ISIS, he said, was gone before. It's still not gone. So if you look at my list, the only thing that he has actually accomplished so far, oh, there's one more thing, pardoning the people involved with the January 6th attacks on the Capitol. So the only thing he has fully accomplished is that, letting criminals go free. And his number one goal now is to cut taxes on billionaires and corporations, and he is sacrificing for us in order to do that. Because, by the way, one of the reasons why he wants to do the tariffs is to bring in federal funds, and then that will help him cut taxes on billionaires, right? And so that is why, if he wants to do the tariff route, which is what the U.S. had years ago, before there was an income tax, it was tariffs and it was excise taxes that fueled the economy, the federal government. If he wants to return to that, so he can cut income taxes on the billionaires and corporations, we are going to pay out of our wages with a higher cost of everything. So this is the struggle he is in. And this is why you have, and this is when I'm play this for you, you have these members of Congress and members of the administration kind of covering up what's really going on here. So I'm going to play for you right here. This is Lisa McCain, I think is her name, member of Congress, just talking about how it's really fine. It will pinch a little. You know how when you're going to get a show, it's going to pinch a little. Yeah, no, it's not going to pinch a little. It's going to pinch a lot. And as she is on television talking about how, prices will go up. Remember, even though Donald said he'd bring them down, it'll pinch a lot. You watch the stock market just tick, tick, ticking down as she is speaking. Let's play that.
Tomorrow it might be up 500
very
points.
Uncertain.
And tomorrow
I understand. It's the uncertainty.
Well, and as you know, the Dow could be up tomorrow 500 points. So we have to take a look at the stock market in a period of time. You can look at any one day and be like, oh my gosh, the certainty is great because it's up 500 points. So I think there's a difference between taking a look at short term. I think it's the difference between taking a look at short term and long term. And I will share this. It is going to take some unconventional methods to get us out of the mess that we've been in the past 4 years with the EV mandates, with unfair trades. And this shouldn't come as a surprise.
Okay, I just have to break this down. The stock market was at an all-time high under Joe Biden, number one. At that time, Donald Trump took credit for it. Then when Donald was elected, supposedly there was this bump as it related to businesses thinking this would be good for the economy. So yes, after Donald Trump was elected in November and the market went up, that has entirely been wiped out. All of that gain has been wiped out. And so the idea that she is getting on television and claiming that what's happening now is trying to adjust for all the problems in the economy when Joe Biden had a roaring economy, and to deny what is happening right in front of her with the tariffs is outrageous. Let's listen to the rest of what she says, and then I've got another person in denial.
And again, I've done meetings with people in my community, with auto workers in my communities, and they are absolutely giving the president and Republicans grace and are actually applauding us because we.
Okay. I don't care whether someone is applauding you. I care about what the numbers say, and the numbers are going down, and we are absolutely in the middle of this trade war. So now I want to play this for you. This is Andrew Ross Sorkin, and here he is speaking with I believe this is a member of Congress. I will tell you, you'll see who his name is. I didn't label this clip. So let's listen to Andrew Ross Sorkin put the screws to this guy about the trade war.
Itself is one of the great.
Sorry, this is Senator Dave McCormick. Okay, rah, rah, McCormick.
Unto itself is one of the great enemies of our economy. And so the question is how much you think the American public is going to be willing to accept some pain or some additional cost, potentially, hopefully, to get to the other side of whatever you think this all looks like later.
What I want to start by saying I think everything you're seeing is consistent with what President Trump said on the campaign trail that he was going to do, and everything I'm saying is consistent with what I said. The tariffs are designed to do two things. There's the tariffs on Mexico, China, and Canada, which is to stop this terrible scourge of fentanyl. 100,000 deaths last year. That's a huge cost to our economy, and they're meant to change behavior. The second set of tariffs are meant to ensure reciprocity, a fair deal for the American people in steel and aluminum and other places.
Okay, no, that is not everything they promised. And just so you know, what I heard yesterday, Project 2025 laid out so much, right? Getting rid of the Department of Education, getting rid of any mention of climate change and DEI, all this stuff. But one thing that I read yesterday, and I have not confirmed, is that Project 2025 was, or at least the Heritage Foundation, always opposed to tariffs. And so they have removed any criticism of tariffs. So although Donald Trump had talked about tariffs, he lied by saying it wasn't a tax and it wouldn't raise our prices. So no, this is not exactly Senator McCormick or even close to what he said. Now, I want to pivot a little right now from economics and domestic issues, although I realize trade wars hit an international sphere, but I've been so far talking about the impact on us. I now want to talk about the other legal, economic and legal issues that we're facing now. And the first one is NATO. And this is quite serious. So Donald Trump, it appears, had some kind of press conference yesterday. And as you know, I don't share his face or his voice on here unless it's an error that I didn't see the end of a clip. So what I want to share with you instead is this photo. And Donald Trump yesterday was asked about NATO. And you know he's been wanting to get out of NATO since, let me just remove this. He's been wanting to get out of NATO since he came back from his visit to the Soviet Union in 1987. So there are some people who trace his being influenced, and doesn't mean he was an agent of the KGB. It's just that maybe he was flattered a lot and just repeated what they said. So he's been against NATO since then. Of course, Putin is absolutely wanting the U.S. to get out of NATO. And there's one part of the NATO alliance, which is, the most important thing about NATO, which is the idea that you would support other member countries. And this is the collective defense agreement, which is so-called Article 5. And this idea of collective defense is at the heart of what this NATO treaty has been about. Again, North Atlantic Treaty is what the NAT in NATO stands for. And this has been, because Ukraine is not a member of NATO, it means that we don't consider, although we've helped Ukraine, we don't actually bring our troops in physically to defend. And we are not technically, we weren't or are not at war with Russia because, again, Ukraine is not a NATO country. So yesterday, let me share with you what Donald said. He was asked about NATO, and he was ignorant and disdainful. He said, if the United States was in trouble and we called them, we said, we've got a problem, France. Do you think they're gonna come and protect us? They're supposed to. I'm not sure. Okay. What an actual idiot. There has been only one time that Article 5 has been invoked ever, and that was after 9/11. And friends, indeed, they came and helped us. They supported us. Okay, in the war in Afghanistan, even though wasn't, I could go on about what we did in response to 9/11 and the war in Iraq, etc. Whatever you think of the response, the reality is those countries in NATO did come to our defense under Article 5. He was also asked a question of, I think it was of Steve Doocy of Fox News, are you going to still be part of NATO? And he said, they have to pay their share, they have to pay more, so I guess it's no. So it's not clear to me whether we exited NATO yesterday or not. We are not in a great spot, and that part is not surprising. And so that allows me to pivot for a moment. And that is to pivot to not just NATO, but how we are treating our troops. It's not just troops from across the globe. It's also our own troops. And you would think if you wanted to be America first and you wanted to have a strong military, supposedly Pete Hegseth says that, but they are not honoring veterans. And what I love here, and who this is my, this is going to be my hero of the day. This is a clip from CNN, and this is Breonna Keeler, who is actually challenging this talking head, saying, no, it's not true what you're saying about vets. If I remember correctly, her husband is or was in the military, and I think that is why she may have a particular affinity for this issue and concern for veterans. Let's play this. And she is my hero of the day. She is the person of the day because she will, live on TV, fact check and correct. Here we go.
Is focused on our veterans, delivering care to our veterans, and we're going to do that. And we're going to do it even more efficiently than ever before.
So you endorse the cuts to key support staff on the veteran hotline. That's
there
something
have not been cuts to key support staff
there
at the VA. The VA is going to work more efficiently, and DOJ is going to recommend and find ways to do that. And Congress, it is true.
Let me tell you. So this is Senator. It's Jim Banks. He's on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and she says, Senator, that's just not true what you're saying. They have cut back on the Veterans Hotline. That's an important phone number to call if you are in distress, if you need services. Let's keep listening.
Hotline. That's
there have
something
not been cuts to key support staff at the VA. The VA is going to work more efficiently, and DOJ is going to recommend and find ways to do that. And Congress, it is true. The 45 days into this administration, President Trump is focused. I'm focused. Republicans are focused on making the VA work better. I mean, the fact is what President Trump did in his first term to provide more community care and better options to our veterans, whether it's at a VA hospital or at a private hospital.
To the VA right now.
He did great. He did historic and great things to the VA for the VA in his first term.
Sir,
he's going to do even more and greater things for the VA in his second term. I'm not changing the subject. Okay. You're bogus.
What an insulting man. So I did find out that, yes, indeed, my memory is correct, and I want to share my screen with you here. Okay, so let me blow this up. So she was married, and then so she had been married, her second husband. So in July of 2016, Keeler announced that she was engaged to Fernando Lujan, and he was an active duty Green Beret who was at the time, in 2016, a director on the National Security Council at the White House. What a beautiful family. Here is, I think, a picture from their wedding. Okay, so she knows from whence she speaks. And I really, again, she's my hero. But there's more. Going after veterans. This used to be something that would never happen, right? This is something that you would not hear about. It's like a third rail. It's kind of like going after Social Security. And of course, the VA has always needed improvement. Any organization of people does. And the VA is dealing with all kinds of challenges. The last thing in the world you would want to do is cut a hotline, cut support. And so I'm going to share with you something, Nicole, this is a clip from Nicole Wallace on CNN, speaking with a representative, not in Congress, but a representative of the veterans community. At the other side of the clip, we'll talk about this, and I will give you their name. Here we go.
To this country, frankly, a lot of red states in this country, they're hours away as it is. Why weaken that fragile lifeline?
Because I think it's part of the larger strategy, which is to take down the government to its studs. And for decades, the Koch brothers and others had a grand vision of ripping down the VA and privatizing it. Pete Hegseth was the leader of Concerned Veterans of America, which for years advocated for ripping down the VA and privatizing it and sending it out into the private market. And I think that this has always been a prime target for them, regardless of whether or not veterans are there. And I think the insight here is they don't care about veterans. They don't care about anyone. They care about an ideological agenda and seizing the levers of power. And what I would tell folks is if they treat veterans like this, if they treat retired generals like this, how do you think they're going to treat everyone else? How do you think they're going to treat you? We are just first. But this is a line they're going to work their way down. It started with DOD and now they're at VA.
Okay. Oops.
To this country, frankly, a lot of
one second. I just want to tell you his name.
In this country, they're hours away as it is. Why weaken that fragile lifeline?
1 second, Sarah, guys.
Because I think it's part of the larger strategy, which is to take down the government to its studs. And for decades,
Paul Reichoff, he's the founder and CEO of Independent Veterans of America. Let me tell you, I am someone, if I found out a student I teach or taught, a student in my classroom or someone I meet informs me that they are a veteran, I say thank you for my service. If I ever see anyone in uniform, 100% of the time I say that. I even say thank you for your service when I find out people have other roles in local, state, or federal government, because that is a community service. And there is, to me, no greater service than things like medical care, whether it's for veterans or it's even in a private, not-for-profit hospital, and also military service. We're talking about risking lives and saving lives. And I agree with him. They are the canary in the coal mine. If you cannot stand up for our veterans, you don't really stand up for America. So, and again, whether or not you believe in the cause of the war or the particular battle or what have you, in my view, it's disrespectful, it's inhumane, and the idea that our leaders are doing this tells you what they think of humans as disposable, as pawns for their own agenda. Or as Shakespeare said, I think the expression is cannon fodder. Now, one last thing before Crazy Town, or two last things. First, I referenced Prism, and for those of you who are new, Prism stands for physical health, relational health, intellectual health, spiritual health, and mental health. And we here call ourselves Prism mates, because instead of counting the hours until Donald Trump is out of office, we are not imprisoning ourselves. We're trying to find a balance. And of course, a prism is a device that shows the full spectrum of light. And no, that is not the cover of a Pink Floyd album. They don't have a monopoly on how prisms operate, and that drawing is different. And I will also say, one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs Wish You Were Here. I won't play that on the way out because we always play Crazy Town. But anyhow, so one last thing before we get to Crazy Town is it's not every day that I would put up Laura Ingraham on this computer. But I am, or on our show, on your TV screen, on your computer, on your phone. But she said something that was music to my ears, speaking of music. And I wish this day were here that she describes. So listen to this and hold on to the part that is going to bring you joy.
And I can tell you for this next fiscal year, we are going to be taking a flamethrower to the waste that Elon Musk is
better, because these midterms don't go the right way. We're looking at, the Democrats are already planning to impeach President Trump. That is the truth. The investigations are going to start, and they're going to go into town on you all, on the Republican Party. So, and again, You got here 5 minutes ago. Look, he's already getting.
We are? We're going to impeach. We're going to go to town on them. Yay, midterms. We have to win. Anyway, that gave me so much joy. And so I hope you too consider that a beacon of light, something to strive toward. Okay, guys, let's play a little Crazy Town to sort of usher in the weekend. You know, I was introduced to that music by the producer over on the Mary Trump Network, Kyle Shivers, when I used to do, before I did a live show, when I was doing a recorded show. And I love it. I love it. And so thank you, Kyle, if you are listening. Okay, so our Crazy Town today is Howard Lutnick. I think this one is, I don't know if this is on Fox News. Give me a second. No, it's CNBC. And he is kind of being called to the carpet about that issue that is so at the top of their minds, immigration and scapegoating immigrants. And his feet are held to the fire here. And it's so crazy how he just tries to cover up reality. And we know here on this show that the simple step of a courageous individual is not to take part in the lie. And we are seeing, whether it's Breonna Keeler or this particular anchor or all of us, we're not taking part of the lie. And when you see people like Howard Lutnick here and other, Republican members of Congress or members of the administration, pretty much all the federal elected Republicans, for the most part, taking part in the lie, it's because they're afraid. And it feels good that they are so afraid of losing status and power that they are like the emperors with no clothes. We see them for who they are, and we expose them for who they are. And so with that, here's our Crazy Town.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents only seized 43 pounds of fentanyl at the Canadian border last year. So is that a metric? Do we want to see that go down to zero? How are you judging when they've done enough?
Well, how funny is that, right? Like, if I seize less, does that mean, like, the stuff they haven't seized hasn't gone through? I think autopsy death, as horrible as that is to say, should be the statistic. But a lot of it is Americans.
So hold on. What you're watching here is this is Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce, as he's talking about the tariffs on Canada, saying they're going to stay until they stop all of the drugs coming across the border. And as he's talking, you see the stock market decline. And what you hear this newscaster, I just want to back this up and play it for you again, because this is important. You hear this newscaster, this anchor saying, hey, there's not a lot of drugs coming from Canada. How much more do you need them to do? Then listen to her carefully when she tells you it's not Canadians, it's Americans who are doing this. Okay, let's play it.
According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents only seized 43 pounds of fentanyl at the Canadian border last year. So is that a metric? Do we want to see that go down to
43 pounds.
How are you judging when they've done enough?
Well, how funny is that, right? Like, if I seize less.
43 pounds? That's like what a heavy backpack would cost in the entire year. And look at his smile. It's like oh, fuck, how am I going to answer this? And he's just trying to spin out the lie. Here we go.
Does that mean, like, the stuff they haven't seized hasn't gone through? I think autopsy death, as horrible as that is to say, should be the statistic.
But a lot of it is Americans smuggling it over, right? It's not just Canadians.
That's it.
Well, look, crooks are crooks, but I got to stop the flow across our border. We've got to stop the flow that has these ingredients being made in Canada and in Mexico coming into our country. We've got to close the border, which we're doing a better job of, obviously record low numbers, but we need to see fentanyl deaths decline. So that is.
So if only 40 pounds were seized, and he's claiming so much more is just getting through. And if the vast majority of people smuggling are Americans, why don't we get, I don't know, our FBI director, Kash Patel, or Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, to focus on that instead of threatening universities and trying to take away their speech rights. Why don't they actually do their fucking job and apprehend and arrest the drug smugglers who are Americans coming into the U.S.? It seems like they have plenty of territory. They're allowed to use sting operations to figure this out. So they're not doing their job, and now they're blaming Canada. This is all pretextual, but the most important thing here is the demonization of other countries, the demonization of immigrants. And it turns out people are people. And it's so much easier to scapegoat and to blame as a pretext for an economic policy that is designed to allow taxes to be taken in through import taxes so they can lower taxes on billionaires and corporations. That's the game. All the rest are a bunch of lies to justify what they're trying to do, which is line their pockets at the expense of the American people. Selfish, greedy, idiotic. And on that note, have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. I want the music to start up again, and I don't know how it will. Let's try it. Oh, good. Have a great weekend. Bye.